Right now I'm here with Bailey Industrial to kind of help people with some metal shaping stuff and show off all this awesome Bailey equipment. I think what interests me the most about teaching metal shaping is I can remember not too long ago when I had my first moment of kind of that epiphany of what metal shaping was and the difference between shrinking and stretching. So getting to share that with some other people and kind of see that light up in their face of them being able to make that shape that they're imagining in their head, it's a lot of fun. So what I'm going to talk about today is kind of piggybacking off of what Carl said, which is metal shaping with just simple tools. So when I started, I saw metal shaping and I'm like, I want to do that, right? But a lot of the tools just seemed so out of sight. I was young, I didn't have any money, but I was able to afford simpler tools like this. So as you start to build up your Bailey arsenal, this is just kind of a point to remember. In that meantime, there's still a lot of things that you're able to do. So one of the pieces that I was doing a lot when I was first starting to build patch panels for hot rods and stuff was I'd find myself doing curved flanges a lot. So you have pieces when you just have a straight piece like this. I don't know whose piece this is. Something like this, you can just put in the brake and bend it straight, right? But as soon as you start to get a curved flange, that's where you start to have to do some shrinking and get some shape. And so I can remember, really struggling with that. And this was kind of one of the first pieces that I really started to figure out. So I have this curved piece here. I used some tape, just like Chris Rush did. So I'm able to follow along this line, and then I'm able to draw out my Sharpie mark so I can get where my flange is going to be tipped. So just with a regular body hammer and then using the edge of this stump or a table, I'm able to put the line just right on the edge. And I'm just going to get the trend started here for tipping this over. So with body hammers, I kind of explain it like a lot of people when they first get a body hammer, they're just like, thinking like they're hammering a nail in. But you want to think of it more of like, instead of like stabbing, it's more like chopping vegetables. You want to have kind of a nice loose grip, kind of like almost just like you'd be holding a knife. So you can have a nice, consistent, and controlled hit on here. So this will kind of get my trend started for where I want my flange to be. So something like this, now that I've been able to grow my tool arsenal, I have one of these blue Bailey machines. So I just do the tipping dies just like Chris did on his piece. But before that, this is what I used to have to do. So another thing you can do is you can use these shrinker jaws to kind of cheat it and almost kind of use it like a brake as you go along. So I can kind of gently clamp in with the shrinker jaws and just pull it down just a little bit like this. Kind of slowly and incrementally work my way around. So as this material folds over, you're going to start to have distortion in this metal here because you have the same amount of material that's coming around and it's wanting to force its way out. So that's part of what we're going to need to shrink down as we go here. And just like Chris did with the tipping dies, kind of make multiple passes at it here, so that way we're not doing too much at once, just slowly working it over. So you can see for this first pass, I didn't really do too much with the shrinking jaws. I just kind of used them just as kind of like a clamp to bend it over. So you can see it's got quite a bit of distortion in it still. So now we'll kind of come through and we'll start to do our shrinking. It does not, especially with aluminum, it does not take much with these shrinking jaws. So many light passes is a lot better than clamping down on it too hard, because it's also going to create those jaw marks in there that If you do it too hard, they're going to be a lot harder to sand out later. Another important thing too, kind of like Carl was saying, is even if you do have, the tipping dies, or maybe you're going to tip it in a reciprocating hammer, it's still important to understand the fundamentals and be able to, take it back. Maybe you're working on a piece and then your bead roller goes down, and you need to still make your piece. It's a good thing to be able to have multiple options in your toolbox. So another thing with this, now that I have the tools that I have, something like this, I would go through in my plenishing hammer and be able to crisp up and clean up this edge. But if you don't have one of those, just like who was asking about what if you don't have an English wheel, still being able to just do it with hand tools. So I can kind of use the curve of the stump here, and I can slowly start to crisp up this edge. So I could spend, a little more time on this, really making sure that there's no waves in my edge here, and I have things really nice and crisped up. But you can see, I've only been at this for a couple minutes here, and now we have a lot flatter panel. So being able to take it all the way back to just using simple tools, and as you start to build up your Bailey arsenal, maybe this is the first thing. There's still a lot of stuff that you guys can get done with just a simple hammer and some shrinker stretcher jaws until you're able to get into the bigger machines. So that's all I got for you guys.